Interview with Jenny Ritter. She is a Vancouver folk artist, beautiful voice, a wonderful singer. She's really got a lot to say about the traditions of folk music and what's happening in Scandinavia, where she's toured before. So interesting things to hear from Jenny Ritter. She is a long-standing musician here in this part of the world, the Pacific Northwest. She's from Victoria, but she's been based in Vancouver for the last couple of years and has toured a lot around the country during her time in the Gruff. But now it's time for her release of her debut album. She has a release for that coming up here in Vancouver very soon, Saturday, I believe. The album's called Bright Mainland, available on Bandcamp, and let's get into it. So this is myself chatting with Jenny Ritter, Vancouver folk musician. Okay, so we're joined here. We're very pleased to be speaking with Jenny Ritter, who is a local folk artist and very well-known person around town because she was a member of the Gruff, who I believe you were around for a number of years as a three-piece, Jenny?
The band was around for 10 years as a three-piece or a five-piece or a four-piece.
And I've got to say, my first introduction, because I kind of only arrived in the city a few years ago, kind of just when you were breaking up, but I got to say that Commercial Drive, that song, stuck in my head for a long time, and it still pops in every now and then, and I believe it should have been an unofficial anthem of the Olympics, but that's just me.
That's never a bad thing, having a song that sticks in your head.
Yeah. So every time I walk down that street, and we'll play it today, but that was another time. We're here now with Jenny and what she's doing currently, and that's it's all about a debut album. Jenny, what has life been like for you since disbanding the Gruff? I guess all the songs on this album are influenced by your experiences here in Vancouver in the last few years?
Yeah, in Vancouver and around. It was a change for sure, and took some serious getting used to. And, you know, in every painful process that we go through in our lives, we glean inspiration from that. So I think that's really where the album came from, was kind of me processing all the changes in my life and how I process everything is to write music about it.
That's right, and through your movement too, you're known to be someone who's not afraid to tour and to move about, and you know, songs come to you through movement too, I imagine.
Yeah, to some extent, for sure. Yeah, like traveling. I mean, traveling is really inspiring, and I do find often when I'm traveling that I can't really process what's happening at the time, and so like to sit down later and kind of like write about it, even just in a book, write about it or whatever, will generally yield music and songs.
Well, and speaking of traveling then, I mean, as far as Scandinavia, I find that fascinating. You're planning a tour there fairly soon after your release date here, but you've already been there before. How did that all come about in Scandinavia?
I've always been pretty interested in Scandinavian folk music, and then, well, not always, I guess in the last few years, and then, thanks, and then, sorry, I'm getting derailed. Okay, let me start that again. I have been interested in Scandinavian music for the last couple of years, and I don't know what it is about the folk music there, but it really speaks to me. And I met a Swedish folk musician in Vancouver who was living there for a few months, and he taught me a bunch of stuff, and also ended up playing on my own music and sort of adding his own musical flavors to it. And so I had to go to Europe last year for a wedding, and I decided to just take a detour and go to Sweden and Denmark, and I played a couple gigs there, and they were received just so well. Like I could see it on people's faces that they were just, even young people, they're like listening to my folk music that I write, and they get it, and they are quietly listening, and they're engaged in a way that, I mean, I love my country and everything, but in a way that I feel like people here don't generally music here.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated it, and I was really excited by that. There's a lot of folk tradition there that's taught to the general public and always has been. Like everybody knows how to folk dance there, and they know the basic songs and basic tunes, and I think that that's probably part of it. But basically, I want to go and take my music there for a little while and see if it's received as well as I think it's going to be. And I also feel like Canada's just a little too big. And I toured around this country for a long time, and I don't really want to do it anymore. All the cities are too far apart, and, you know, I don't mind doing little here and there, but in general, I'm sort of exploring my other options, and that's part of the reason that I'm going there.
Absolutely, yeah. I do hear this a lot when I interview artists who've toured Europe, and just because it's that long-standing minstrel tradition they have there too, that's just based on just so much more history than what we have here. It's still a baby country, like Australia, like the two countries from this show. They're still countries growing up in a way.
Exactly.
It's, that you really hit on a really significant point there about the teaching to the general public of folk music, and that's, of course, how it's done. It's passed on orally.
Technically, there is not really any such thing as Canadian folk music. I mean, we have Canadian folk musicians like Dan Rogers, Gordon Lightfoot, James Keelahan. These guys are folk musicians, but the music is not based on folk tradition. You know, it's quite new. And I don't know. I feel like maybe we're in a really exciting time in Canada, and probably Australia too, because we're kind of at this point where we're getting to invent our own folk music, you know, our own cultural music, but we don't have the foundation that those guys are working with.
That's right, and it seems like, I'm just reading a biography on Bob Dylan now, and of course he was such an individualist, and he just researched intensively. You know, that's why he became what he was so young, that he sorted it all out himself. Nobody, there weren't parents around or grandparents, you know, sitting on the porch with him. So it seems like individuals have to really seek it. So it'd be interesting to see if one day a real folk tradition occurs, where families are playing, you never know.
Sure. 50 years time. There are parts of Canada that is happening in. I mean, like, Cape Breton is a really good example of that, right? Like, they have been kind of dealing with this, Cape Breton folk music for many, many years. And they are, they're really true to it. And it's a family tradition. Everybody shares there. And even my time in Nova Scotia on the East Coast was definitely flavored by that, by families. Kind of every single person in the family played an instrument fairly well, from like grandma and grandpa to the littlest kids. And so when you go to a party there, everybody just assumes that there's going to be music, and they participate, the whole family. And people party together there too in a really cool, like, intergenerational way. Yeah, these are things I'm kind of looking for, and realizing that maybe we need to work on building a little bit more in Vancouver.
Yeah. I know you're a fan of, I've seen here on your website, Old Man Leduc. Is that how you spell his name? Ludica. Thought I'd play a bit of his music as well today, too, because he's part of that kind of world, you'd say, that's a little bit more in touch with folk tradition from that part. Yeah, well, from that part, and, like, even older, like, American folk tradition, too, for sure. Because obviously, like, he plays banjo he plays clawhammer banjo, which is an old-time style of banjo playing, which was developed in, like, the Appalachian Mountains many, many years ago. And I mean, wow.
Yeah, so that's definitely, I mean, I'd say it stems more from American. He definitely has an influence from, like, Woody Guthrie and those kind of really old-timey songwriters. And I sincerely believe he's one of the best songwriters that we've seen in many, many years. He's incredible, and he's not an old man at all. He's like 35 or something. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, that's great. We'll definitely feature him. I love getting these different angles on music. Whenever I speak to interesting people like you for this show, no genre goes untouched as far as I'm concerned. And well, I mean, you've already done so much because of your connection with, of course, the Kingsgate Choir as well. What can you tell us about that?
That was like just a special piece of magic that I don't know. I mean, my band had broken up, and I kind of didn't want to try to pursue music as a profession. I didn't want to make money at it, because I was feeling like trying to make money playing music was taking all of the joy out of it. And so I kind of gave up on it. I was like, forget it. I don't want to do it anymore. And then I realized that the thing I missed the most about being in a band was, like, singing with other people. And so I had a small group of really good friends who encouraged me to arrange some music for all of us to sing together. And I started doing that, and the first week there were 4 people, and the next week there were 8 people, and the next week there were 20. And it just, like, it grew, and it with very little effort for me. All I had to do was arrange the music, which is fun for me, and then provide a venue. And people came, and soon I had like 30 people in it, and I started a waiting list, and now I've started a second choir with the waiting list from the first choir, and now there's a waiting list for the second choir.
Wow.
So I'm not going to start a third choir. That's just way too much for me. But it's really gratifying to me to see how much people want to participate in their community, and how much they want and need to sing and like express themselves. It's really cool.
Absolutely.
And we're just doing rock and roll music. It's not even, it's not even choral music, and there's nothing spiritual about it, but it's it's really fun.
Well, it's amazing, and I mean, you're onto something. The connecting with the folk tradition and connecting with people's hearts here in the city. I think you've already sparked something that's quite special, and it'd be really. I'm certainly going to keep in touch and be attentive to news you send from back in Scandinavia and see what you bring back. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. My pleasure.
And we're going to be playing tracks from your brand new album, which is it was released on October 4th, which was yesterday. Yesterday.
I played last night, and I'm playing tonight in Victoria.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
And the official release show in Vancouver will be next weekend.
Yeah, next Saturday the 13th, St. James Hall. It's produced by the Rogue Folk Club.
Oh, well, thanks so much, Jenny.
Today, there's sun on the bay, there is sun on the bay. The feeling's mighty fine, and it's spreading like a fire. It's too hot to hold, it's getting too hot to hold. And so we go, we put it in our mouths, our teeth and our